and welcome back to Brain Talk.
This week, we're going to be talking about a disease in the nervous system called multiple sclerosis, or for short, MS.
MS is a disease that affects the myelin on your neurons, and if you don't already know what myelin is, it is just a protective sheath covering each neuron to help electrical signals transmit quickly and efficiently along the nerve cells.
Now, in this disease, for some unknown reason, the immune system decides to attack and destroy the myelin in your nerve cells, which causes the signals to slow down or get blocked when traveling along the nerves.
MS dates back to hundreds of years ago in the 1800s, and it all started with a man by the name of Jean-Martin Charcot, who gave it its name. Throughout the 18 and 1900s, many therapies were tested, and none were successful, which you can imagine was pretty heartbreaking for those with the disease.
A big discovery was soon made in the 1950s with cortisone, which was found to reduce the severity of relapse and shorten its duration. This was a huge step in research and gave many with the disease a sign of hope.
You guys might be thinking, hey, what does this disease do to your body? Well, I'm about to tell you.
Me too.
So basically, in MS, your body has a hard time doing basic normal functions, such as walking. Some of the symptoms include fatigue, weakness, bladder problems, cognitive problems, dizziness, numbness, vision problems, pain, and even depression.
And yes, there are many medications one can take to suppress some of these symptoms. However, it isn't long-term. There are injectable, oral, and infused medications. Some of these medications are Extavia, Glitopa, Lemtrada, and Tecfidera.
MS is not cheap either. All those medications and other supplies needed for those with the disease cost a lot of money. A recent study even found that the total cost of healthcare for multiple sclerosis ranged from about $9,000 to $50,000 per year, with prescription drugs counting for a large percentage of it.
And just think about it for a second. You could buy a nice car with that money. It's expensive to get sick, and it's not fun nor fair.
Many people have MS too. There are hundreds of thousands of cases of MS in the United States alone, and those in the United States have a 0.1% chance of developing this disease.
It is also 3 times more common in women than men. Some researchers believe this is because of a sex difference in the brain. However, they have not quite figured it out yet.
It is also said that it is more common in those with Northern European ancestry and who live farther away from the equator.
Scientists have been working on a cure for years on end, but sadly, there is still no cure. But luckily, MS is not considered fatal. However, it's been known to shorten one's lifespan by about 7 years.
MS also has been known to have something to do with your genes. If one has an identical twin with MS, it increases your chances of getting it by 25%, while if a sibling or parent has it, it increases your chances by up to 5%.
And although there is no cure, scientists are continuously researching and have made major breakthroughs.
Due to more knowledge about the immune system, many medical therapies have been found to reduce relapses in those with relapsing remitting MS.
Researchers will continue to make breakthroughs in their research and hopefully one day discover a cure for MS. Now, moving on to the diagnosis of MS. In order to diagnose someone with MS, there needs to be evidence of damage of 2 parts of the central nervous system, or otherwise known as the CNS.
To test for MS, patients get MRIs to look at the cerebrospinal fluid that covers the brain and spinal cord and evokes potentials which measure the electrical activity of the brain in response to stimulation of specific sensory nerve pathways.
Patients also take what is called a neurological exam, which are used to look at a person's cognition, coordination, and strength, vision and hearing, and other senses to see if MS has already damaged some of these neurons.
Now, on to the prognosis of multiple sclerosis. And if you don't already know, a prognosis is almost like the forecast for the disease.
So, there are many factors that influence prognosis, some being low rate of relapses per year, complete recovery from a first attack, long interval between first and second attack, tingling, vision problems, and low disability at 2 to 5 years from the disease onset.
Living with the disease isn't ideal, obviously, but those who live with it don't have an easy life. Many living with MS have trouble balancing and have fatigue, so some use crutches or wheelchairs for support.
Because of how weak some can be, they cannot participate in many sports such as soccer, football, or swimming.
Some with MS also have trouble doing normal everyday activities such as running, hiking, and walking, but this all depends on how severe the disease is and the person.
Those with MS also have to be careful in activities they do because they are weak and could easily get hurt.
It really must suck though, like not being able to walk as easily as everyone else and always needing someone to help them do, in some cases, simple tasks.
Yeah, I know. I can't even imagine how hard it must be for them.
So now, moving on to the end of our podcast, discussing 5 random facts about multiple sclerosis.
First is that stress is a trigger for MS and can come in many different waves from emotional to physical. Also, about 400,000 cases of MS in the United States, about 8,000 to 10,000 of those cases are children and adolescents.
Next, experts recognize 4 courses of MS, which are progressive relapsing, secondary progressive, primary progressive, and relapsing remitting. Of those diagnosed with MS, progressive relapsing affects about 5% of people, about 10% are diagnosed with primary progressive, about 85% are diagnosed with relapsing remitting initially, and about 50% of people with relapsing remitting develop secondary progressive within 10 years of diagnosis.
And finally, clinically significant depression affects up to 50% of people with multiple sclerosis over the course of their lifetime.
Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast.
Come back next week to listen to us discuss the differences between white matter and gray matter.
This has been Brain Talk, and we'll talk to you guys next week.